Tring, 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 tring. Yellow. Hello, I'm non-fiction. Who are you? Well, technically, I'm a story about real life. Okay. I could be psychology, self-help, personality development. Wow. Keep going. Information, science, biology, history, geography, spirituality. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's too many, man. Let's stick to spirituality today, alright? Alright. Yup. Buddies, today we're gonna talk about some unique topic, and let me bring you the podcast intro. Oh, sorry, podcast agenda. Yeah, this is what we're gonna talk about today. So it's a books podcast, and firstly we'll talk about our guest speaker, and then we have some special topics like retrospection and introspection. I always wanted to do a difference on these two topics, and what is mindfulness. So today's episode is all about mindfulness, and we're gonna talk about the favorite book of our guest speaker, and have some fun activities. So, without any further delay, let's get this podcast started with our special intro. All right, you are listening to MW Podcast. I'm MaddiE DawsoN. This is the first live stream for MW Podcast Books episode. We have talked about gaming and movies, so there are already many books podcast episodes in the video section. Like we have uploaded it, but this is the first episode we are coming for the live stream. Yeah, so today we have a special guest speaker. So without any further delay, let me give the stage to him for the introduction. Yes, Sanjay, you can have the stage.
Hi, MaddiE. What's up? Uh, I'm Sanjay. Officially, I'm known as Dr. Sanjay. Amongst many friends, they call me Zan. I am a Bangalorean. I was born and raised in Bangalore. Did my schooling in Bangalore, and in 12th picked up medicine. And it's been about maybe 17 years, and currently I work as a neurosurgeon in a non-profit organization in Whitefield called Satyasai Hospital. um, this is who I am formally. Informally, I am a person who likes to dabble in a lot of things and keep life interesting. I love to read. I love reading both fiction and non-fiction, and I love martial arts. I love music, and I constantly try to keep these facets of my life, thriving amidst a busy career. And I think this is what makes life interesting, and the career is definitely at the helm of it, but certainly these things matter a lot to me too. In contrast to what I came to speak about here today, you will realize that my introduction today is quite contrary to what the book I'm about to introduce you guys to advises you to do. But still, we are in this world, and it's very important that you guys that we are introduced to each other. So hello, a big hello to all the listeners.
Yeah, I remembered my intro dialogue. Whoa, 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 that's too many. So, especially to Bangaloreans, I ask one question when I meet them in real life or anywhere. Like, do you know five languages?
Yeah, I do. I probably, yeah, easily.
Excluding English.
Yeah, without English, I know Hindi, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada, a little bit of Telugu, and a little bit of I'm learning Telugu and Bengali, you can say.
Yeah, you
Uh,
are a true, validated, verified Bangalorean.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay, so let's move on. So, all about our guest speaker, Sanjay. So, we want to know. So, I would like to personally thank you because we have done 17 episodes of Books Podcast, and
Okay.
all of them were people. We met the members, and then we recorded them, and then we came back and edited it, and then uploaded it. So, those were all post, what do you say, offline. But this is the first ever books podcast that is happening in live stream, and you are the first ever member, so I would like
I'm
to
so
thank
glad.
you.
I'm so glad for it.
Could you have started another series here in our MWM YouTube channel? So yeah, we want to know everything about you. So when exactly you discovered the books, and how long you've been reading, and what you read. So today's book is all about nonfiction. So as I said, why I gave that particular comical introduction is nonfiction. People always think it's just one genre and they kind of
Yeah.
put it aside, but that is not nonfiction. So when did you particularly discover nonfiction after discovering books? And yeah, so that's the origin story. We would like to know your origin story.
So I think growing up I was a shielded child, and it was all about coming home early. And once you come home early, it was either watch TV or you can read some book. And my father was a member of a library close by. Back then it was beautiful, where I think every area had a library where you could a small library with a collection of novels. You could go become a member, borrow a book, maybe keep it for about 30 days, 45 days, read it, return it, and it was fun. I remember, and our schools had this library period. Like, we all remember the physical education period where we go play, but our school, I studied in Baldwin's, and we had a library period where we could go and pick up any book. They had the Hardy Boys, they had Goosebumps, and those were the initial non-fiction that I picked up. I remember that my spoken English was good, but somehow always, in the exams I scored very less. And one of my friends who did well prompted me to start reading more. And the first book that I picked up from with that agenda was Harry Potter, and I finished the series. And I'm so thankful that I scored badly in exams, because it gave me a reason to read Harry Potter. It's one of my favorite books till date. And yeah, somewhere I think, in your quarter life crisis, maybe somebody gifted me a self-help book, and it made a lot of sense. These were stuff which were supposed to be common sense, but they kind of registered in your consciousness only when you read about it. And I did start reading a few books. The first book I read was this book by David J. Schwartz called How to Think Big. I think that's how Think Big for Success. I think that's the book. It was a beautiful book. It's probably written in the 1950s, but it's very practical. Don't give excuses. Be responsible and those sorts of things. It even goes on to even talk about how to treat your partner right in a relationship. So it gave me a very nice foundation to kind of build on stuff. And ever since then, I've just been curious. Even it could be how to win friends and influence people, or these sorts of books. I just kept picking them up and reading them. And a lot of the times all of them say the same thing. To be honest, like, later got into a little bit of spiritual reading. Like, I started reading the Bhagavad Gita, and I realized whatever the essence of it is, just is literally almost the same as in many of these self-help books. It is about, do not worry, just do your work, and those sorts of things.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, from your talk, I had another question. So now I want to ask, like, do you like non-fiction more or fiction more?
I think I like fiction more,
Okay.
but there was a time in my life where I was too serious about life, and I thought non-fiction was a waste of time.
Okay.
Although now I do believe that non-fiction is the Trojan horse method to actually get things into your brain, into your subconscious. It gets, probably you can get a lot more of these lessons into you with a good non-fiction. Like a good fable maybe will give you a lot more morals than probably points written in a book.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's move on. So, this is something that I had to. I mean, I have been waiting to discuss retrospection and introspection. So, people
Yeah.
might be well versed with retrospection, but introspective or introspection is some word that not many would have heard. So, what is your
Mm.
point of view or perspective on these two terms? And let's explore the difference together. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Why don't you tell me about retrospection? Because I want to know what is the context in which you're using this word.
Yep. Retrospection came into my life during the when I entered the corporate. So that's where they do those agile. What do you say? The process is there for the projects, and then they do these meetings just to analyze what has happened in the last month or the last 2 weeks, what has gone well, gone to. So that was the corporate technical term. It came
Yeah.
to me, but I discovered soon in life that it is something about looking back and. Not just worry about things but take the lessons from it, right? So you
Yeah.
have done something good and it has worked out, so that is something to depend on and reliable. And you have done something wrong and that has gone wrong, then it's something you have to do, change it, or like do it in a different way. So it's like not kind of failures as well as learnings. You have to be retrospective, and it has to be regular. Like you shouldn't completely forget of the past. So retrospective is all about the past. But when it comes to
Mm.
introspection, so introspection is self, right? So it's like
Yeah.
you explore in retrospection. What happens, you explore what you have done and like the surrounding, what it has impacted or like how it has changed. So introspection is all about you, like what are you functioning, how are you functioning, and then in the present it's all about the present. So retrospective, I'd say it's about the past, introspective is about the present. So am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah.
This is my perspective.
I mean, I guess I'm sure you're right, and I'm sure there are more than one definitions to all
Yeah.
these.
Yeah.
For instance, you told me that retrospection is essential, right? It is
Hmm.
essential, and like every essential thing, if it goes beyond a certain threshold, it becomes a bothersome thing, right? I think all of us are experts at retrospection, and the problem with this is we have one foot in the past, and we're constantly emotionally kind of it's not just a very logical way of looking at the past for a brief period of time, picking up the lessons and okay, let's move on. Problem with many people is when they retrospect, I think they're too emotionally tied to the events, and a lot of from and they look at this from a point of regret or a point of guilt, and that I think is a pointless um, exercise. Introspection, on the other hand, of course, there should be some degree of introspection. There should be an idea about one's own priorities in life, and how, if one is, actually meeting these priorities set by oneself, right? Like if I have a priority as family, money, and work, and then I'm sacrificing my family for work, I'm not going to be happy, right? I think that is what integrity at the end of the day is about. You introspect, you know your priorities, you have a list of priorities, and you have a hierarchy of them, and then you act accordingly, right? And that is where constant introspection with an agenda in mind. We should know what it is that we want, right? And are we truly? And I'll tell you, the most introspection becomes so important, so important. But what people forget is you cannot lie to yourself. The most, even if it is bitter, even if it does make you feel a little bad, being truthful to you, brutally honest with yourself, right? That again is something that, if you're able to do that, and with that introspection, I think then it's probably a meaningful exercise.
Yeah, so I think both are important, but one thing on the retrospection, it's not just about the negativity, right? So as I was
Yeah,
saying,
true,
so
true.
I just learned everything from like book. It's like a theory. So and I was
Yeah,
coming into the corporate life, and they were doing these
yeah,
retrospective meetings.
yeah.
So I loved about they just categorized into 3 points, like what
Okay.
went well, what did not go well, and
Yeah,
improvements or like what can
yeah,
be enhanced. So
yeah, yeah.
so it's just not about the negativity, but you should look at the
True,
positive
true,
as well.
true.
Okay.
Again, I have a negative perspective on that,
Okay.
and it's just just to widen the discussion.
Okay.
You're absolutely like, if I can imagine, I've never worked in a corporate sector, but I imagine that it's a very disconnected, emotionally disconnected way of looking at things, so that you're able to objectively gain from this exercise, right? Now there are people who look at the past and kind of live in the past glory, right? So that again is a again I just try to tell you that there's another side of the coin, where in retrospection, people sometimes live in past glory, right? You might not be doing so well, and you take some energy from, I used to be great, right? I used to have a great body, but that's not good enough. right? If that becomes a regular thing where you kind of get your dopamine hit by, the six pack you had when you were in your 20s, and you don't do anything about your body now, it's of no good. So certainly, it is important, but again, everything has to be an objective and a truthful, you know assessment of the situation.
Yeah, I agree to you because I have been on the both sides of the coin. So I've been a robot as well as human. We are all humans, so the
Yeah,
emotions would definitely come into picture when you are
yeah,
thinking about the
true,
past. And a lot of people tend to live in the past, so that's why they
true.
don't progress. So it's
Yeah,
important that we have to bring both sides of the coin.
yeah.
Cool. Yep, that was about retrospection and introspection. Now let's move on to a more significant topic, which is mindfulness. So there is this, I think, 3-4 years back, Apple
Yeah.
Watch. I don't know. It wasn't the watch or the mobile phone. So they introduced
Yeah.
an exercise called mindfulness. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm not sure how many companies had given importance, but back then itself, Apple was one of the companies which gave the this as an exercise. So I
Okay.
didn't know until then what was mindfulness. Then I explored what is mindfulness, and it was a very breathtaking concept. So
Yeah.
let's hear from you.
So, I do have an idea of what mindfulness is, and I have been. So I was I'm a I was very curious about meditation, and I was lucky to get in touch with somebody who was a Vipassana practitioner,
Hmm,
and I did understand what he meant. It was just, just the previous topic we were talking about, on retrospection.
hmm.
Sometimes, people are too captivated by the past. Sometimes they're too anxious about the future. And what happens, you have one leg on the past, and you have one leg on the future, and your present, doesn't, you're not standing on your present. So mindfulness is about, although retrospection and, future planning are brief exercises, you got to be present in the moment. So you're suppose I'm having food, keep your mobile down and just enjoy the food. Observe the taste. Is the food hot? Try to just be there, right? And this exercise is basically, our mind. Broadly, you can just say that there is a conscious mind and there's a subconscious mind, and this conscious mind is constantly, it's very analytical, right? And the subconscious mind is very broad and ambiguous. So the purpose of meditation in a lot of these, in a lot of different cultures of meditation, is to just quieten the conscious mind, so that the subconscious, the inner voice comes out, right? So the same way we have, and the one way to do this, at least in Vipassana, is to focus on your breath, to focus at the tip of your nose. It's a very broad thing. I am not a Vipassana practitioner, so I cannot get into the nitty gritties of it. But the most basic version of it is just focus on your breath. Be here, be at this moment. Focus on the tip of your nose, just breathe. So when you're doing one activity, your brain can focus only on one activity. A lot of us like to boast that we are multitaskers. We are not. It is task switching. So if you really focus on one thing, your whole mind comes to that, right? Your conscious mind can come and focus on that. So I think that is one of the definitions of mindfulness. Whether there is more, I'm life is long. I'll have to learn more about it.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I may know what do you say. Like whatever knowledge you have, I have the same. So whatever you
Okay.
described, from
Yeah.
my at least from the last 6 years of my exploration, I think except humans, everybody practice mindfulness. So if you look at birds,
Yeah.
dogs,
Yeah.
anything, they will be just
Yeah.
be living in the present moment. Okay.
Yeah.
So there was
Yeah.
this one video I which I saw on YouTube, like where there's a puppy,
Yeah.
and I think the kid or the parents, they call out this puppy for food.
Yeah.
So it tries to run towards the voice, but then in
Yeah.
between there's a plant. Okay, so it's so cute, and it gets distracted by this plant, so it
Yeah.
forgets the call, and then it goes near the plant and it starts biting the leaf, and then it
Yeah.
remembers again that okay, somebody called me, and it goes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is exactly what you were saying. So live in the
Yeah.
present moment, enjoy the present moment, and as you said, humans tend to think about the past and
Yeah.
go there and worry about the future. So in future, it's just worries, right? What is going to happen?
Yeah.
Like for them,
Yeah.
for some people it'll be excitement, but for some people it'll be like sadness or anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah.
So very well put. And I think you talked in depth about how can you make mindfulness or bring into practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always try to remember animals. So this is my practice. So I
Yeah.
just remember what a dog does as soon as it gets up. So if you see it
Yeah.
stretches. So the first thing
Yeah.
it requires is exercise for his body. And we humans, like we, a lot of people don't even work out or basic
Yeah.
walking or jogging. They don't do. So I kind of try to be mindful by reminding or observing the animals and birds. So that is my kind of way. So tell us about your way of being mindful.
Um, my way of being mindful is I don't know. I think life has over time given me multiple reasons to be mindful. I have had a few challenges where I was in that that extremely stressful situation where you're not able to focus on the job at hand, on what you're doing, because of some at some point in the future everything is trivial, but at that time it was a significant event in my life, and I would not be able to focus on the present. I would either be thinking about what led to this, or I would be thinking about uh, you know uh, what am I going to do to get out of this. And I realized that it never helped, and it just made life miserable. And at some point things just switched on. So a bulb just went on, and I realized, just do this. And even though I'd read a lot of, Bhagavad Gita says it, and some other books say it, but it, until you just find a real need for it, right, you don't. And once you start practicing it frequently, especially for me, when I'm working out, for instance, I go to the gym and I just put my head down and I work for 45 minutes. I just you know just kill myself, right? And that time, that those 45 minutes, my mind is blank and I'm just focused on the task, right? And that flow state, that gives me a high, that makes, probably because I'm not too worried either about the past or the future, it just brings out the innermost nature within me. Just I can breathe. I feel so good right now, right? It happens even when I'm focused at work, by the way. So that, or probably when I'm playing my guitar, I'm just like for 15, 20 minutes, we can just, oh, I'm completely involved in it, and then boom, right? And I think that once you start experiencing that happiness, you start craving more of it. Thing is, over time, I've also realized that these sorts of activities that you chase after for mindfulness, they're temporary, so you got to keep doing them again and again and again. And when you keep feeling good for a longer period of time, that becomes your basal state of existence. So I think maybe, like you said, exercising, eating right, and consciously trying to be in the present, these sorts of things over time will snowball into you being a happier person, a more blissful person, I would say, rather.
Yeah, so I don't know. This episode is making me talk more. I'd like to add.
No, I would love to hear your
Yeah,
perspectives.
yeah, I'm a huge fan of Rajnikant, especially the offline Rajnikant when he goes to stage and speaks. And also,
True.
in one of the
Yeah.
stage pieces, he said that every thought has a weight. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
why when you're excited, you feel so what do you say, light, and you kind of tend to fly. But when you're sad or
Yeah.
depressed, the thoughts are so heavy, you kind of come down and it feels so dramatic. That's where the worries come. So I felt that's really true. As long as you live in the present, and when you're
Yeah.
disciplined, especially like trying to be mindful, and when you
Yeah.
have some exercise, whether it's physical or
Yeah.
what do you say, mind related, any kind of exercise that helps you in being mindful, I think you
Yeah.
can tackle any kind of problems. And
True.
personally, everybody's life is filled with suffering. So it might be
Yeah.
simple as, for school kids, it will be like quarterly exam or half-yearly exam, and they have to study so many things. So it's
Yeah.
only the exaggerated version is for adults. So adults will have a
Yeah.
similar problem, but in a different way. So
Yeah.
we have to be mindful. So if we miss
Yeah.
that, it's gonna be really hectic in life. So good that.
Since you talked about Rajnikant, I
Yeah.
have another Tala that I want to speak about,
Okay.
and that is Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Okay.
Yo. Okay.
So you talk about being mindful, right? The most stoic person in the world, right? This person, he's got like, Bangladesh needs two runs in five balls, and you look at Dhoni. Dhoni's like, okay, he might as well be standing there having peanuts. He's so cool. He's like, let's take this one ball at a time, right? And how many times have all of us lost hope? But then you look at Dhoni, and Dhoni makes us win the match.
Yeah.
Wherever, no matter what stress I'm feeling out, he's my. I wouldn't say. I mean, I don't know if I idolize anybody, but he's somebody that I kind of think about in such situations where I'm like, wow, like, yeah, just be stoic. It's okay. I mean, nothing's going to happen. The world is not going to end. I mean, yeah, yeah, in 50 more balls we might lose the match. The World Cup is on the line. Nothing. This guy is calm. This guy is, and the same thing probably when you see a Virat's probably a little more tense. Rohit's a little more tense. You see a few abuses hurled on the field. Dhoni is this cool cat, and I think that that person who is neither too excited by victory nor too discouraged by defeat, and takes things at that moment. Let's see what is the best we can do, and that calm mentality, man. I just love it, and yeah, that's the other Tala for you, who is definitely
Yeah,
another person who I'm
yeah,
sure is an example of mindfulness.
yeah, I think you brought the most relatable person when it comes to mindfulness. As you
Yeah,
said, he
yeah,
takes moment by moment.
yeah.
Cool.
Everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You want to continue? You want to say something?
No, no. I
Okay,
think
okay.
we can move to the next topic.
Yes. So coming to the favorite book. So which book have you brought us to recommend?
So, off late, I started reading a book. It was recommended to me by one of my favorite people, a good friend, and someone I look up to, a person who really lives with her heart on a sleeve. So this person recommended this book to me. She said that I just want you to go through this book, and I found this book to be extremely helpful. It's called as Atmamun. So the title is Atmaman, the path to achieving the bliss of the Himalayan Swamis and the freedom of a living God. And somehow, whatever we spoke of today is all in line with the basic theme of the book. But the basic essence of it is, till now we were talking about mindfulness, and in this book, the author Kapil Gupta talks about mindlessness, right?
Okay.
So what he says is, so one of the meditation practices that I started earlier was something called Kriya Yoga, and Kriya Yoga, you're asked to ask yourself this question: Who am I? Right? Now, if you really think about it, the answer is that you are not your body, right? Because your body is yours. Like, this is my hand, this is my heart, this is my liver, right? And uh, are you even your mind? And the thing is, when you really think about who you were as a kid and that excitement and everything, and the belief is that I'm not even the mind. The mind is a product, it's a filter through which I look at the world. So if you really think, the mind is also an instrument, right? So the book goes a little deep, where he says that you are the most, at the deepest state, you're an observer of the world through this body and through this mind. And if you're able to kind of deconstruct the various shackles that have been put on your mind through your experiences, your upbringing, through the different filters that have been applied on it during your existence, you can live with that childlike bliss, right? If you're able to kind of understand that, this, for instance, if somebody told me that you can never be an athlete if you start after 30, right? And if I believe this, I would never ever try. But there are people who became world champions. Like, the best example is the boxer George Foreman. He became a boxer at the age of 50, right? When he was 25, he lost to Muhammad Ali. Somewhere in his, I think he was 25 when he lost to Muhammad Ali in Rumble in the Jungle. And at close to 50, maybe 48, he became a world champion. That was unheard of. Somebody post 40 even fighting, right? People would be retiring in their 30s. And these sorts of shackles and these sorts of statements made, and if we take it at that face value, right, it does affect our performance. So, we have to kind of be able to go after what we want without looking at them through these lenses. And that's what this book speaks about.
Okay. Okay. That was really inspiring case studies. So
And
I was just going to this book in Google. So how
yeah,
is the concept or theme presented? So does that have any
so yeah.
analogies like stories, mythological stories, or is it about
So, so,
yeah?
so the author gets into the book in a very quickly, right? He says that I just want to give you this topic. I just want to talk about this, and I'm going to make this a question answer session. It's like an interviewer is asking me the questions, and I'm answering these questions. It's as simple as that, and I will try to explain my logic through this form, this sort of a dialogue that is happening in the book. The book probably has about 20 chapters. The book is about 178 pages, and throughout this concept, a few of the concepts do repeat. And he's basically trying to drive into your head that inner self that you are. Like, see, you introduced me as who you introduced me as. You told me to introduce myself, and I said I'm Sanjay. But Sanjay is a person who was like the name was given to me by my parents, right? So this book goes into a little bit of that deeper spirituality where he says that you can shed off that ego, right? You can just shed your ego, shed your mind, and when you live in the state of no mind, you have complete freedom. You don't have any sort of any sort of shackles. Like, I might be thinking, is it okay to come on a podcast and talk about some random spiritual book? When I'm a person of science, I'm in medicine, so I got to be very careful about what I speak, right? I can put myself in that box, and I can restrict myself in a lot of ways, but there's no need to do that, right? So you gotta like kind of be able to shed these sorts of inhibitions you put on yourself, and he explains to you how to go about it. He also uh, delves a little deep about God, and he talks about our relationship with God. Everybody's God fearing, another authority figure in our life. God is this person who is um, who we have a transactional relationship with. God, I want this today, so I will give you a coconut, and in exchange for that 20 rupee coconut, God will give me a Mercedes Benz, right? These sorts of approach to spirituality or approach to God, he says, is very harmful. He says, rather than this, just become your own God or completely submit to whoever is your God. But when you submit yourself, like a leaf which is on the bank of a river, throw it throw it onto the river, and now the leaf is traveling with the river. So if the leaf were to have eyes, it would see the world that the river saw, right? So now the leaf has become the river. So I know it's a little stretched out topic, but he explains it very nicely, and it does make you realize that sometimes you can just go with the flow, right? And by going with the flow, it's not just abandon everything. It's about having the courage to say that I don't have to live by these sort of shackles, that self-imposed shackles, I would like to say, because after 25 you're responsible for all the decisions you make.
Okay, so it reminded me of Buddhism. There is this three doors of liberation:
Okay.
emptiness, signlessness, and aimlessness. So whatever you said is a summary of all these three doors of liberation. So
Okay.
you don't see yourself, you're not the body, and don't go chase after anything. You whatever you want to become, you're already there. So
Yeah.
I loved hearing about this. So
Yeah.
the whole book is about mindlessness, is it? So any
Yeah.
other spiritual what do you say topics are
it's
covered?
it's more about this. It's the whole book is about this. It's about basically trying to make you understand that the kingdom of God, as they say, is within you, right? All the happiness that you experience in life is within you, and you don't need to the difference between happiness and bliss is that when I base this emotion, this sense of contentment or happiness or peace, when it's based upon external events, like if I get a bike for my birthday, I will be happy, then that's going to be temporary and short lived. But that happiness was still coming from within, right? So he talks about how maybe through this practice, you don't really need to chase anything. The happiness, the peace, everything that you want is within you. right? One small deviation is when I was talking about this yoga, kriya yoga, or maybe vipassana. A lot of the times, people meditate for hours and hours and hours just for a few moments of that thoughtlessness. Our brains are constantly rambling. Sometimes you're riding, you're running, it's rambling. You are riding a cycle, it's rambling. You're just sitting having food, your brain is rambling. 100 thoughts, 100. If you can just quieten it down and just become, just the wave becomes flat. It's like a lake. You don't, every thought you throw into the, every thought you think of is like throwing a stone that causes ripples in the lake. You want that lake to be serene, right? And that is the whole idea behind mindfulness and mindlessness. You have to become thoughtless, right? That's at least where you start from. And that peace and bliss, everything is within you, and that will start showing more and more once you hit that state.
Yeah, I was feeling so proud because whatever we are talking now, and I just went one level higher last year, and I did make a
Okay.
movie of this concept, like
Wow. Okay.
mindfulness. So if you see, for those who have not subscribed to my channel, if you go to my homepage, there is a movie called Buddham. So
Okay.
that's where whatever you're talking about, the mind is so constantly flooded with so many thoughts, your thoughts, and what's happening
Yeah.
outside. Sometimes we tend to observe what's surrounding us as well, right? So
Yeah.
it's very important to observe, not just see
Yeah.
but observe. Seeing is different, observing
Exactly.
is different.
It's like you're
And
stealing the words out of my head, because I was like, this is what I want to speak about next, because you just the book talks about be an observer, don't be reactive. Matlab, things will happen, just observe them. You don't have to react to everything, and that goes back to that stoic. They call it sthiti pragna in Sanskrit, I think, where you're just balanced. You're not too happy when something nice happens. You're not too sad when something sad happens, and that basically is exactly what you're talking about. It's very nice that we're on the same page about this.
yeah, it's quite difficult for one to achieve this. This is almost what we are talking is like saint mindset.
Yeah,
So for
yeah,
common people or commoner, it's difficult to achieve. But that's where these kind of books comes into picture, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
these books. So one of my friends said that it's always good to read a book. Why? Because an author might have spent his entire life to write a book, and you would be reading it in 1 month or 2 months, and you will be
true,
acquiring that 50, 60 years of knowledge in just one
yeah,
month. So
yeah,
especially these kind of books, I say the topic that we're talking about is so it's difficult to comprehend, first of all,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So and it's not just for kids I'm talking about. Even people who are like 30 plus, 40 plus, they still
yeah,
have their own, what do you say, typecasted
yeah,
attributes. So these kind of books will help us break that pattern or
yeah.
mindset. Yeah. So can you tell us more about the author?
Uh, I don't know much about the author.
Okay.
I know that he has, he does have clients who are, elite athletes and celebrities, and he speaks of guiding them through this process. He's not a spiritual guru. I don't think so. Someone said that he might be. I mean, the person who suggested this book to me told me that he might be the teacher or like a spiritual guru for Naval Ravikant. Although I have no idea, I didn't research much into him. I saw that he had a website, but that's pretty much what I know about him.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, but all this talking about talks about mindfulness have kicked my interest on Buddhism. I have to go back to Buddhism. So I follow a lot of religions, but Buddhism is my favorite, and especially
So I think Vipassana, which I was mentioning,
okay.
which I think you're not familiar with, right?
I
So it is
I
a
know.
Buddhist,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
it's a
Vipassana
Buddhist
is Buddhist. Okay,
meditation.
I didn't know that. Yeah, please tell.
Yeah, Vipassana is Buddhist. So
Okay,
even their books, they have some all those Buddhist titles. I've just seen the things. It's a Buddhist practice, basically.
okay. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, they have this silent monks, correct? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I thought it's something related to Indian yogic system, Vipassana.
No,
It's
no,
the
no. This is Buddhism. Vipassana is Buddhism.
okay, nice. Okay, so enough of dwelling into serious topics. Let's take a breeze.
Sure,
That means fun activities. So,
sure.
yeah. So I'm giving you an activity which will be not cool. So you have
Yeah,
to, what do you say? Disdain. Show your disdain for this book and make
yeah,
sure people doesn't read this book.
yeah. I actually was thinking about all the reasons to not, because I have been that person, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot, sometimes I had very well-wishing friends who would tell me, Sanjay, you got to let this go, let this particular event go, and I would say, or let this particular memory of yours go. Seek therapy about it and just let it go. And I would always think, dude, if I go back and undo whatever it is that that mistake that I made, whatever lesson that I learned from it will be gone. Like if I had a time machine and whatever the first mistake that I made and I did not made sure that I didn't do it, that lesson that I got from that, or the person that I became as a result of that, is no longer existent. Matlab, I'm literally erasing myself, right?
Mm.
And the book literally says that, yeah, that's not such a bad idea, because whoever you are right now, you might think like, I'm literally erasing myself. It's okay. The inner essence of you is still alive. It's okay if you erase yourself, and I'm not okay with it, dude. If people who are not okay with it should not be reading this book, I kind of regret reading this book. Please don't read this book. Yeah,
Okay, probably, yeah, it touches topics beyond your comprehension, I might also add. So if you're
yeah,
looking for a difficult subject, don't read this book. Okay,
yeah,
now is your time. Personally, it has given a lot of benefits. So you have to make sure that whoever listened to this podcast would
yeah.
go and pick up this book.
Uh, I I I think it's a serious read. I think not it's not a book for everybody. Second is, you got to be ready for something like this. There is, see, life beats us down, and a lot of times it's a very good thing, because as the ego dies, you're able to see things more clearly, and you're able to appreciate life and its variety. And if somebody else is doing well, you kind of appreciate them, right? And this book is all about killing that ego, and through that killing of the ego, to be able to just do things for the love of doing them, right? Just do things for the love of doing them. It's not for any end result of glory, or just because I love doing this particular thing. I wanted to be on this podcast, so I'm on this podcast. I wanted to read this book, so I read this book, right? So you will start living life with a lot more intensity and integrity. And if you're somebody looking for something like this, I would recommend this book. I do not think this book is for everybody. So if there's any listener who's like, let me just pick this book for a casual read, you may not like it. If you are in a state of mind where you think, I want to kind of get some introspection into myself, and to realize the book will kind of leave you dazed in the end, saying, am I really who I am, right? And yeah, maybe such people can pick the book up.
Yeah, I would like to add. So, personally, in my life, I have seen a lot of friends as well as folks who follow this, like without even being aware, that they have
Yeah,
this power. This is like a superpower, guys, I'm talking about. So,
yeah,
and
yeah,
not everybody can be mindful. So, only people can be mindful as kids and animals
yeah,
and saints.
yeah,
Okay, only these three group of people can be mindful. So if you look at
yeah,
any animal, a meerkat. So right now I'm watching a meerkat. So you study about them,
yeah,
24 hours when they awake and then they sleep, they are. So that applies for every animal and species, I mean bird species in this world. So children, so why children are so happy, they can get through anything and forget and move on. So that's their nature. So only after 12, 13, you tend to know more about the world, that
yeah,
what do you say, extreme happiness, extreme
yeah,
sadness
yeah.
hits in. And saints, they have
It doesn't
achieved.
take much to make a kid happy. It's only once we start polluting their minds with all this, the transition to adulthood, that it makes an effort. Otherwise, a kid, it doesn't make take much to make them happy.
Exactly. So yeah, it's talking, it's about, it's exactly like a superpower. So
Yeah,
I feel a lot of people have this superpower without even being aware. But for people who want the superpower, being mindful. I just loved one statement told by Sanjay. Like you mentioned that you have to do it for the sake that you love it, not for the sake of
yeah,
achieving something or attaining something. So I have been following this practice. So especially I this year I have realized a lot of things. So last
Yeah,
year it was all about filmmaking for me, and I was like, I want to be the greatest filmmaker. I want to make great movies. But this year, once the community kicked in, I was like, okay, I'm not just a filmmaker. I am more than one aspect. I have more than one
yeah,
facet. So
true.
yeah, it's really good to acknowledge what all aspects you have, and then
Yeah,
obviously there'll be one important thing that you will what do you say, go for, and you
yeah,
don't have to become a saint, guys. So
yeah.
try to be
No,
a
I was
mind. Yeah,
gonna say like just about like having a podcast like this, for instance. It's about you're giving your time for not something much in return, right? You're
yeah.
just doing it for the love of it. And I think one of the best podcasts they say in the world is a Joe Rogan podcast, and that started off this way. It's just him and his friends were talking, and he just had this idea that this is such a fun conversation. I want others to listen in, and he didn't really have any expectations. And I think that sort of things eventually will pay in dividends, because it's I think it's a rule in life. If you're able to give something without expecting anything in return, the universe maybe just gives you back in abundance. And yeah, all the best for
Wow.
that.
Thank you. Especially last 2 weeks have been hard me and I mean hard for me, and especially hearing that sentence from you is really great.
Yeah,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, summarizing. So it's a superpower, guys. So we already told it's very exclusive. So if you want the superpower, go and read it.
All right.
Okay, so Sanjay, how did it feel? I think it's your first podcast. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah, it is my first podcast. I was previously I was scheduled, but again, because of my erratic schedule, you were kind enough to accommodate the changes. So I'm very thankful to you. So yeah,
How,
because of such things, at least definitely my first podcast, and I had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
It was fun.
so usually I'll tell you, okay, it's
Uh,
very relaxed when we do it as a recording. Like usually I have events on most of the weekend, so some
uh,
or other friends I'll call them and record it in a cafe or a event place, and then I
okay.
kind of edit. So that's a very relaxing, like it's relaxing for both anchor and the guest
Yeah,
speaker. So
yeah.
here for me it's too much work, but for you also, like to come on the call and especially sitting at home. So how was the experience, like talking about all?
It was the best, because I had a long day, and I just wanted to come back and just chill at my house. And for me, chilling is also talking to people. And I usually get on a call with a friend or somebody, and so this was a friendly conversation. I enjoyed it a lot, and to do it from the comfort of my house, that's the best. I probably would have enjoyed. I have probably enjoyed this more than probably sitting in a cafe. For me, I'm a Cancerian, so I like to come back to my house.
Okay.
So
Cool, cool. Thank you so much, Sanjay.
thank
Like
you
once
so much,
again,
Maddie.
you are the first guest speaker to come on a live podcast books
I'm so
episode.
glad. I'm so
Yeah,
happy. So honored.
hope you return with more books. And
Definitely.
yes, guys, today we are talking about Atmamun, the path to achieving the bliss of the Himalayan Swamis, and the freedom of a living God by Kapil Gupta. It's just 137 pages. Should be available in any bookstore or Amazon. And I said it's a superpower, so do purchase this superpower and read it. And thank you for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this podcast. I will return in another live stream, video, or what do you say? Something. So I'll be in touch. Take care. Until then, you are listening to MWM. I am MaddiE DawsoN signing off with Sanjay. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.